So it's a hearty welcome for Anirban Ghoshji. Let me also welcome each one of the participants. And I hope everyone is living in safe haven, safe home. And it's good to, connect through this new way of, having sessions and meeting people individually through web. Uh, uh, Also welcome to all the new joinees once again. uh, See there, uh, it has been, the corona crisis and all that. The corona crisis converted into pandemic, and then we have global crisis, now the economic crisis, and we don't know, there are so many in future, which are yet to identify or uncover. So we have got a social disturbances all over. We have got a unemployment crisis, economic uncertainty, agriculture productivity is down. The other our SMEs productivity has fallen totally. The foodless community is there. Cashless community will be there. The water availability will be an issue. So there are so many. So I'll not take care of much of time. But we have to be well prepared and ready, for whatever comes, and we have to find the new way of doing business. So, and this is one the new way, because everyone now got very good on the technique, the digital, the use of digital technology. So we have to, of course, find the new way. Uh, and At MCCI, we have been, of course, believing in that collaboration, and that new way only will happen through a collaboration. So, and that's why we have been creating a lot many, the e-sessions, and we are getting a great, the speakers like what we have today, Mr. Anirban Ghosh. And, uh, you know, in today's world, everyone wants to know a lot many things. Everyone wants to be fully aware. Everyone wants to be, uh, have full knowledge, but that cannot be so. And for that, we have to, it's quite challenging and also struggling apart. So that's why this kind of session, and that's why this kind of distinguished speakers, and we need to hear, which can add value. so so let me conclude here, once again, to welcoming you, and I look forward a very valuable and knowledgeable session from the Anirban Ghosh sir. Sir, welcome you once again. So, and over to you, sir. Thank you.
Chetan. Things are tough enough. You were successful in making us more scared than we were before. Before I begin, let me share my screen with you. So today we are going to talk about resilience in uncertain times. I don't have to tell you about all the problems we are going through. In fact, I'm just happy that you are here, and every one of you who are here sending out a message that we can deal with this situation, however difficult it may be. And I'm happy to see that you're safe. And I'm sure after almost a month that we've spent in lockdown mode, some of you must be already working and thinking, how do we get regular life started again? How do we get business started again? Because this has been an unprecedented disruption. And I'm not using the word lightly. I'm saying unprecedented because this is probably the first time in our lives when we've seen everything shut down around us, other than essential services. Very often in conversations on business disruption, we tend to say that, disruption usually occurs regionally. And if everything is not shut down, we can still survive. But this is the first time when we're seeing supply chains shut down everywhere. OEMs shut down everywhere. And so this is indeed unprecedented disruption. I hope we don't ever see something like this again. But first, we've got to deal with what we have right now. In fact, today, I would have preferred listening to you because many of you are closer to either the action itself or trying to get action growing on ground in terms of reviving your units, reviving business, going back to work. And I'm sure there are discussions you're having and challenges you're facing which would be worthwhile listening to. In fact, I've been on a few webinars where these issues have been discussed in great detail, and some of which we will allude to over here. And if you have questions, do write into Chetan, and I will, to the best of my ability, try and answer them. This situation may be the first in our lifetime, but situations like this have happened before. And I'm sure by now you've heard of the Spanish flu, and many of you would have heard of the Bengal famine. And the Spanish flu, when it occurred around 1918 or so, led to the deaths of almost 500 million people. And the Bengal famine, even though it was just in Bengal, caused the deaths of almost 3 million people. We are at 191,000 deaths because of COVID worldwide now. And I'm hoping that we don't get anywhere near even the Bengal famine, certainly not the Spanish flu, especially because of all the actions that many of us have taken. In fact, India has started responding well. You may be familiar with these graphs. You can see that the rate at which infections have proceeded in India has been much less than what has happened in UK or Italy or the United States and many other European nations, certainly China as well. But this is just a start. There is a long way to go. And till the time we have a vaccine and a cure, we cannot stop being careful. There are already some green shoots of hope. You may have heard in the news that we now have 78 districts with no new coronavirus case in the last 14 days. This number in 2 days went up from 61 to 78. There's another number that people are monitoring, which is how many days is it taking to double the number of infections. And that has reached 8.2 now. Not very long ago, in the early part of the lockdown, it was 3.4 days. So these are good signs that the lockdown that we've had, the sacrifices that we've made, are gradually yielding results. In fact, at some places, literally the worm is turning. And this is a graph that goes downwards when the number of infections, new infections every succeeding day keeps becoming lower than the previous day. So countries like Italy, US, Japan, places that have been severely affected, we can see the numbers have slowly started turning downwards. In fact, we have a situation like this in Kerala as well. In Kerala and Orissa, the number of days to double has reached 30 days, which means that the impact of the actions that they've taken on ground and the care that they are showing is actually having good results. In the meanwhile, we've had some very pleasant surprises. You may have seen Harbhajan Singh's tweet that he had never seen the Dhauladhar range from Jalandhar, but he could see it now. In fact, there is another picture that came to me on WhatsApp, where from about 300 kilometers away in West Bengal, we could see the snow-capped Himalayas, the Sandakphu and the Kanchenjunga. You would have read that clean water has shown up in the Yamuna in Delhi. I used to live in Delhi a long time ago. I don't think I had clean water in the Yamuna even then. And then there are many pictures we are seeing where we're seeing peacocks and we're seeing deer and we're seeing uh, various kinds of animals showing up in urban spaces, probably wondering how on earth is so much space available to us now. So these are pleasant surprises, and they give us a lot of lessons. From an environmental perspective, I think they make it clear to us that in business as usual situation, we are living beyond the limits of nature. Our activities are ensuring that the air is not clean, the water is not clean, that we are making things difficult for other living beings. That lesson is very obvious. Whether we will be able to learn the lesson and do things differently is a separate question altogether. On a social level, as you can all see, we've discovered that a lot can be done from home. For some of us, it's not easy. Not everyone has a very easy environment at home to work from. I have members in my team who would probably choose to go to office because it helps them to work better. But we can see a lot can still be done from home. Yes, I'm sure you would have also realized that a lot can't be done from home. Many of our factories can't be run if all of us stay at home. So staying at home cannot be the complete solution. We've learned that the country depends critically on migrant labor. In fact, I don't think we used to think about this too much. We were very happy that labor was available. We were happy that that was contributing to the well-being of the country. But the availability of migrant labor is so crucial that getting started again and doing well in the future is something that will depend on the availability of migrant labor. And I hope we will take care of them much better so that we do not run into risks of not having labor in the future. In terms of governance, you know, it's easy to say anticipate and have some preparation for risk, but then there are some risks which are very, very difficult to anticipate. Sometimes you can't even believe that these risks are possible. I might even say that we've been lucky with this COVID-19 virus. Lucky because the virus doesn't seem to be reasonably easily tackled. That, you know, in a few hours on a surface, it loses its potency. That if you wash your hands properly with soap, it loses its potency. God forbid we ended up with a virus which wasn't so easy to control. And of course, by now, any businessman will tell you that a lesson that they have always been taught, that cash is king, is never more obvious than at situations like this. Each of you may have many more learnings than these, but these are a good set to just get started. And from these learnings, I guess we can put forward a resilience equation for business in this form, that resilience is equal to preparation plus cash plus quick response plus teamwork. Now, you might ask, what sort of preparation can one possibly do to anticipate situations like this? We will talk about it in a little while. But you know, while the time is coming to get started, getting started won't be easy. We were talking about migrant labor, right? So all those of our factories where we employ migrant labor, even if they have not gone home yet, many conversations, many studies are showing that as human beings, they want to go back home the first time their transportation opens up. And if your factory or your business depends on migrant labor, then even when things open up, there is likely to be a period when getting them into your area of work may take a little bit of effort. However, some people are getting started again. I understand one factory of Maruti, one factory of Ashok Leyland. Just this morning in one email, I was told that 5 auto suppliers like Lumax and Setco and Timken and Precol and Apollo uh, will be starting operations. I'm sure all of us will be starting operations steadily and slowly. And, given whatever resources we have available to just get going. In this environment, the spotlight is already on India. You know about the Facebook Geo deal. You know that the government has had to pass legislation to prevent takeover of our companies because the valuations are extremely attractive now. You know that we produce 70% of the world's hydroxychloroquine, and that this is one of the potential, if not cures, then something that is helping us tide over the crisis at this point in time. There is hope that India will be the manufacturing facility for vaccines, and that the world will be able to scale production of vaccines because of industries in India, specifically the pharmaceutical industry. And even as the whole world tries to develop vaccines, I understand there are 70 such initiatives going on in the world right now, some further on and some getting started. Again, I think it was yesterday that ICMR gave permission to IIT Delhi to move ahead with the vaccine that they have come up with and see whether it can be used widely and safely on people. So there is work going on that vaccine in India, among others. In this environment, many companies have lent a hand. You may have heard the things that the Mahindra Group has been doing in the press. I just wanted to tell you about 4 of them. The creation of the affordable respirator, the manufacturing of face masks and shields for surgeons. I believe they're already in use in some 23 hospitals. Manufacturing of hand sanitizers at our at our pesticide plants, and the creation of the aerosol box that makes it safer for doctors to deal with patients who have COVID and are being treated. Many other companies have done plenty of things and at scale. The Tata Group, Reliance, Vedanta, ITC, HUL, Godrej, to name a few. Without the work that is being done by corporations, by NGOs, it would have been very difficult to tide over these situations, make sure that people have food to eat, people are safe. And many of you may have helped too. Maybe you volunteered, maybe you've given people food, maybe you've also made protective equipment. So if you have, a lot of gratitude to you. And just as we expressed our gratitude on 9th of April by making a lot of noise from our windows for our healthcare workers, all those who are giving help in this sort of a situation, their contribution must be appreciated too. The new normal cannot be an infected world. In fact, when we are talking about the future, sometimes I think that without saying it, we are assuming that the new normal will be such that we have to behave that it's an infected world. Before the COVID happened, there were plenty of viruses there already. I think all of us once in a while get a viral fever, but it doesn't, it doesn't bring everything to a halt. I'm sure very soon that will be the situation with COVID. And I hope we will learn enough lessons that we will not create new viruses like these, like SARS, like MERS, like this COVID, and that we won't end up creating something which is far more dangerous than what we've ended up doing at this point in time. So there are tricks to learn. If we believe that things will change, if we believe that we must be better prepared for exigencies of the future, there are a few tricks to learn. And let's start from the right-hand bottom corner. which is 50% MOS. That is 50% margin of safety. This is something one of our earlier CFOs used to talk about all the time. He used to say that if you want to make sure that your business can be resilient in times of trouble, you should try and ensure that you have 50% margin of safety, which means that your business should break even at 50% capacity levels. If you're able to do that, when difficulty comes, you will be able to tide over it. Difficulties like what we are facing today. This conversation on 50% margin of safety had started within the Mahindra Group during the drought of 2002-2003. Some of you may have experienced that drought in a manner that was very close to you. I did. I was in the farm equipment sector then. Our business volumes went down by more than half. And we still survived and we still made some money, because in a period of less than 3 months, we brought our break-even value, our break-even down from something like 52,000 tractors to 35,000 tractors. And that taught us a very big lesson, that in good times, you must maintain margin of safety. Now, to make margin of safety, you have to save costs, conventional costs that you're incurring today. And to save conventional costs, apart from all the regular things that you keep doing, there are a few new tricks. For example, if you examined how much money you spend to throw away waste, and then if you ask the question, what is the value that you could create from the waste that your business produces, you will find that it is not insignificant. This is an important part of the work that sustainability people do. And I can tell you that the value we add by creating value from waste gives us a lot of say in many other decisions in the business as well. Another place you can create value from very easily is by adopting energy efficiency methods. This is just pictures of LED lamps. You know about them already. But today there are energy efficient motors available, energy efficient air conditioners available, energy efficient processes known, things that were not there in the market a decade ago. So you couldn't have done this then, but you can do it now. My colleague who heads manufacturing keeps saying that 70% of his cost of conversion is energy. And if he is able to increase energy productivity, then the costs of conversion become much lower, and that makes the business far more resilient than before. You also know that it is possible to get renewable energy at lower costs than conventional energy today. It varies from state to state because of regulations. Wherever you can, if you can access renewable energy at costs which are lower than conventional, you will help add to your margin of safety. So these are 3 ways in which we can add to our margin of safety, which we don't normally look at. So when you start your factories again, when you start your offices again, if you have somebody who looks at sustainability, ask him to see how much value we can create from all of these. If you want just an indication, in the Mahindra Group, we've ended up creating value in excess of 100 crores from activities like this, but that's on a very large base. You need to see how much is possible within your businesses and in your offices around the world. The fact is, we are all muddling through this situation now. And by that, I mean the administration, us, entrepreneurs, workers, the government themselves. It's not as if anybody knows everything. So sometimes when I hear conversations on why you're not doing this and why you're not doing that, I also realize that the people we are talking to are also learning consistently. And that's why over time, guidelines are getting changed, new initiatives are being taken, new steps are being taken. And in a very calibrated way, we are trying to move from the lockdown to a situation where life will be closer and closer to normal once again. To believe that somebody is not in trouble and somebody is in trouble is actually not correct. Everyone is in trouble. Uh, the other day I was looking at a video which was talking about an entrepreneur who had a small business. His employees thought that the entrepreneur was not being kind to them. But then the video talked about the various problems that the entrepreneur himself was facing. And so, if all of us are in a situation which is unprecedented, where we don't know the answers, then the only way we can deal with this situation is through compassion and teamwork. Every one of us, in whatever we are doing, we've got to take the other stakeholders along, understand their point of view, do the best that we can. And I'm happy to say that businesses within Mahindra are working with their value chain partners and trying to be humane as much as possible to the extent that the business allows and resources allow. We are also part of a lot of discussions with the government where we are trying to enable policy that will help MSMEs and large organizations revert to a situation where we are doing business in a situation which is closer to normal as we are used to. If we are able to take these steps well together, we have no doubt that we will all rise for good and that we will revert to a situation which is closer to normal. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you and your family are safe wherever you are. I know you are anxious to get back to a normal situation, whatever the normal situation may be. And I do hope that you will take all precautions in your effort to get there. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was really very nice to hear. So now I'm just opening this the entire the session for question and answer. If anyone who has got answer, please just write in the chat box instead of speaking. So it was quite touchy presentation, very practical and realistic one, and the emphasis on, of course, more on the preparedness and readiness for the mitigation of those risks. That is, of course, certainly required, and very great, the practical and realistic examples has been shared by the speaker. So now, if anyone who has got a question, please put it on a chat box so that I can see that. But before that, I have got some certain, one question. As a co-host, I can also, take this liberty to ask you one question. That what do you expect? What kind of, please keep mute, everyone. Please don't ask on a verbal thing. Please write to me. The question you have to write to me. Okay. So, what kind of timelines you expect that the life will be normal for at least for the MSME sectors, looking at, let us forget about this, when the corona will be, out and we'll overcome all the challenges. But within those challenges, looking at the geographical, the spread, and then looking at the government's support and the relief packages, some of the relief packages, how can we balance, and or continue with the value chain, what we have? What kind of timelines are you expecting?
It's very difficult to talk about timelines with a definitive sort of an answer. All of us are looking for that answer, really, wondering when will it all become normal. But here are things that will happen. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that the administration is moving in that direction. As you saw, 82 districts have not reported a case for the last 14 days. There are many districts where the number of cases are very low, more than 1/3 of the districts in the country, that's close to 200. And
Yeah.
it is possible to just clamp down on a small part of that district and get the
Yeah.
rest of the district going. The coming back to normal or reopening operations will actually depend a lot on where you are located. So if you are located in an area which is not very badly affected, you'll possibly get going faster than if you are located, let's say, in Mumbai, perhaps even in Pune, because these are two hotspots.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the hotspots are those where economic activity is the highest.
Yeah.
So there is a reason for worry there, but I'm sure there will be local solutions that will get taken. Solutions have to be taken in steps.
Yeah.
Do a little bit, then do a little bit more. But if we go overboard, like we'll experience a situation like we did here in Maharashtra, where some relaxation was made, but things went crazy in 2 days, so they had to like shut it all down again. So when relaxations are made and you get an opportunity to begin work, then if we are responsible, it will keep building up in steps. Otherwise, we'll keep going forward and backward.
Right. Okay, thank you. So there is a question from one of the participants that you have shown some, the face shield in one of the PPT. So do you recommend this for the production operators? That is the question one guy has asked.
Do we recommend it for production? Yes, I understand. This is now in use in 23 hospitals already. It is proving to be useful, and I'm sure production is going to get scaled. It was designed by an organization called Saral Designs. All this is in the public domain right now. Mr. Mahindra, Dr. Goenka, they've all written about it. And there were two youngsters who repurposed their sanitary pad making machine to make these face shields, because apparently the same materials are required. And we were able to help them redesign and scale up manufacture of the face shields.
So there is one question from one of the participants that, the public health safety. Like we have in organizations like, the audits for quality, for financials. So is there that auditable activities also, in the public health safety is expected, or is it there somewhere?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
But who are the people who put public health at risk?
Yeah.
If you think about that, your answer is going to be us.
Yes.
And we put public health at risk because of the way we manage waste and the way we keep the places where we live, the cities and towns, the landfills we create, the kind of garbage dumps that we have. I don't think it occurs to us that diseases spread from places like this.
Yeah.
So if we actually manage our waste better, if we insist on segregating waste, if we insist on recycling of water, recycling on sewage, actually the amount of value that will get created is in the tune of tens of thousands of crores of rupees. And I can tell you that because we did some calculations on the foreign exchange we can save by repurposing, by taking sewage and converting it into fertilizer, taking food waste and converting it into fertilizer, and how much urea we would not have to import and how
Yeah.
much fertilizer subsidy we would save.
Yeah.
So, public health audits, probably not.
Yes.
But if we put the work that we do to endanger public health, we
Yes.
don't do that anymore, we
Yes.
will be much safer.
Yes. Right. So I think, and just one add-on to it, I think it may be more looked at as a, how the organization is, engaging their, the nearby community, or how the community engagement, the organizations are involved. है ना? So that is
Hmm.
more relevant. So there is a one question, uh, about the sectors uh,
Hmm.
for the normal operations post-COVID.
Hmm.
Which will be that sector? Is that a mobility sector, or maybe something else? What do you expect? Or
Well, the
everything?
easiest one is going to be pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah. Sir, I
So,
have one question for you. There are
hmm.
other questions are also, but just related to this mobility. I
Hmm.
think there will be a new norm. I don't know, the earlier, before the slowdown, market slowdown, the community, the transport was the main. The public transport, like we have metros and everything.
Hmm.
And because of the social distancing and all that part, now
Hmm.
it is going to create a lot of stress, and the private, the mobility will be more, preferred somewhere. Though the, of course, work from home will be there some level. So will that increase the demand for the vehicles, or what do you
Actually,
think?
this is one of the reasons why I said I would have liked to listen to you,
Yeah.
because I would want to ask, how do you want to travel?
Yeah.
Would you prefer to use public transport? Or if you did, uh, how would you use public transport?
but
Would you
but
want to use Olas and Ubers?
yeah.
Or would you want to say, no, I'm safe in my two-wheeler, I'm safe in my car, and that's what I
Right.
want to use? So
Right.
the general conversation is that people will want to use their own
Right.
transport. Nothing wrong in that. But we must not forget that if we
Yeah.
go overboard, we will create another public health crisis
Yeah.
because of air pollution.
Yeah.
In fact, in COVID and in other diseases, we realize the impact very quickly. That's why we say, okay, let there be a
Yeah.
lockdown, let us solve the problem.
Yeah.
In from things like air pollution, we don't realize what harm we are causing to
Yeah.
ourselves. In fact, I sometimes say that managing the COVID situation is like dodging a bullet.
Yes.
But managing air pollution, managing waste, managing all of that, that's like slow poison.
Right.
It's happening slowly to us, but we don't realize.
Yeah. So the balance is very important for all this, and let us collaborate more so that we can guide the policymakers also how to balance this in the interest of the community. So
Sure.
there is a one question, on the, say, unemployment. The market
Mm-hmm.
already hit that, the unemployment thing,
Mm.
and now the crisis situation is also, of course, there. Again,
Mm.
we're talking about some salary cuts. So
Mm.
what is the balance, way for, any organization,
Mm.
or what is your view, or how many of you know who is doing what, or could you
So
please, throw some light on this?
my view is, I told you that we cannot think of a post-COVID world which is filled with infection,
Yes.
which means that employment will come back,
Yes.
not only to the levels at which it was before, but probably more. But it
Yes.
will take time, it will come slowly. But we are talking as if people are waiting outside wanting to get employed.
Yes.
Where, like I shared with you, there is also a reverse reality
Yeah.
where people are saying, hey, let me go back to my family for some time, or
Yeah.
let me go back to the village for some time.
Yeah.
In fact, um, there is a line of thought amongst many entrepreneurs, especially MSMEs, that they may find it difficult to get labor because labor may prefer to live in the village with whatever's available there rather than have a lower quality of life to earn a little bit more money in cities.
Yeah.
That's what effectively migrant labor does, right?
Yeah.
But migrant labor will do it as long as the dangers don't exceed the uh, little extra money that they are able to earn in urban India. So yes, we will get slowly, we will get back to where we were.
Yeah.
People will come back, but in the short run, there will be a little bit of turbulence in terms
Yeah.
of people movement back to their villages or returning from their villages and so on.
Yeah. So that means there is a great positive change is expected, but we'll have to be quite thorough and proactive in doing all those things. And
It
of
has
course,
to be steady. It just
yeah,
has to be steady.
yeah. So there is a one. I don't know. It's a very small question that way. The the people are still don't know where to get those the face shields and then infrared temperature measuring guns and etc.
Hmm.
So is there any way if say tomorrow if you have to start your production process
Hmm.
and if there are any also exports expected and everything starts now,
Hmm.
then how in the entire value chain the things will be ensured from the stakeholder side, the big the big profile industry like you, uh, how will you ensure that balance between those the material movement and getting that production up?
Well, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
In fact, hidden in that question is another very big shift.
Yeah.
That shift is from making protective equipment as a service
Mm,
to making protective equipment as a business.
mm,
So Mahindra is not charging any money for the
yeah.
ventilators it's making, sorry, the respirator it's making, or the masks it's making, and so on.
Yeah.
It is okay to do this up to a certain point.
Yeah.
But if the world needs millions of these things every day,
Yes.
then you need businesses to step in and manufacture it and distribute it. And the whole thing has to be done in a way in which economic value is created.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think we have thought about it that much yet.
Yes.
And partly because I think we don't foresee a world where you're having to take on viruses in the air all the time.
Yeah.
So for some time, yes, we will need masks,
Yeah.
but hopefully we won't need them anymore.
Yeah.
But if the situation is such that we have to continue wearing masks and face shields,
Yes.
then maybe some of you have an opportunity to set up a business.
Yeah. So, so about this social distancing, now thank you for this, elaborated answer. Now there is one question, on the new normal, for the social distancing, especially for the MSMEs
Mm-hmm.
and the industries.
Mm-hmm.
Will also be, pushed or promoted from your side as well for the for your vendors, and will there be the regulation is also expected in that part, or
You
what
know,
do you think
this
is
is
not just a new normal introduction just to ensure how what kind of check will be there?
this is almost sounding like uh, the seat belt of the car and the policeman.
Right, right.
We don't wear the seat belt when we are driving or when we are sitting in the car to
Yes.
keep the policeman happy. We
Yeah.
do it to save our own lives.
Right.
So when we talk about social distancing, it will be to make sure that your workers, your employees, you yourself are
Yes.
safer.
Yes.
So it really doesn't matter who is keeping an
Right.
eye on you. What
Right.
does matter is what steps are you taking
Right.
to be safe within the boundaries of your unit.
Yeah.
If some of
Exactly.
your people start falling sick, you're going to have problems with labor.
Right.
And I don't think in these turbulent times you want to add to more
Yeah.
problems. So don't worry about who is going to monitor and who is
Right.
going to come and check. In
Right,
fact,
right,
sometimes I visualize factories, the few
right,
that I've been to, small
right,
and large.
right.
I think the biggest place where we have a problem with social distancing is possibly the cafeteria or the
Yeah,
lunchroom. Otherwise, in most factories where people are working from their stations, there
yes,
is almost always some distance between them.
yeah,
However, it's difficult to do that in the cafeteria and the lunchroom. Maybe I'm not understanding the problem
yeah,
completely, but all I'm saying is in some places of your enterprise, social
yeah,
distancing is easier. In some
yeah,
places, you just have to take some
yeah.
measures.
Thank you. So this is really a very great, the thing that you shared, and oftenly, the people. So that's why these sessions are important. Normally the people are don't have that much a lot of clarity. Say, so we want to bring that clarity and the sustainability. That is what we are working towards. Bridging that gap of knowledge and getting that preparedness and readiness to identify those kind of risks and to work on it, so that you who are sustainable in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So now that is where I would like to share one thing here in top of what the our chief speaker, Mr. Anirban sir has said. While connecting and we'll have to try to actualize what just not what we want, but what is required. You know, so that is where we have to try to actualize the thing, not just what we want, but what is required in the current circumstances and in near future as well. So it has to be clear. That is the companies, those who think in that fashion, they will be sustainable in future, of course.
True.
There are two more questions only we'll take now.
Mm-hmm.
One is, the question, sir, can I ask you? Uh, Hello.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
related to the two elements of that sustainability. One is economy and one is socially.
Hmm.
So the question is it economically and socially sustainable to shut manufacturing units for so long?
Hmm.
So I have one answer to this, but I would like to first hear from you. So the question is to you particularly.
I've been giving lots of answers. Why don't you go ahead and give this one?
Yeah, but the question is like, is it economically and socially sustainable to shut the manufacturing units for so long? So I feel that is where the entire private industry is also, and that is where we are also supporting, and we are also um, the what we preach and what we are also doing it. That to keep going that economy, we have to take the certain steps in a manner so that we start our production as fast as possible. So that starts with our own employees, our own supply chain. If we build that confidence on the government, that of course, that is where also our entire team is advocating and giving suggestions based on the suggestions coming from the SMEs itself, that give us opportunity, let us start. So but if the customer wants, you have to start it. So we can, in such circumstances, if someone adds value to the economy, so nothing like that. We have to balance it. We have to minimize the risk of, through that social distance vaccine, through ensuring our mobility, the transport, the logistic and everything. And someone adds value, of course, so there is no need to shut manufacturing for so long.
Let me
That's the
uh,
point.
let me share another
Yeah,
perspective with you.
please.
Nobody wants to shut manufacturing or regular way of life of a community or a country for even 1 minute. Nobody wants to do it.
Yeah,
These are unprecedented times.
yeah,
The question you may have is, could we not have dealt with it in a different way? And this is a question that has been asked for a very long time, right through the lockdown, in very many different conversations.
yeah,
Also, many experiments have been tried.
yeah.
So a country like United Kingdom said it doesn't matter. Everything, let it be normal.
Mm,
People will get immune. Youngsters anyway don't fall sick very much from this virus.
yeah,
So we are not going to take any action. So they tried to do something called herd immunity. It didn't work. Their numbers went up very quickly. People started falling sick and dying. And then they had to do a lockdown just like us.
Right.
That was one extreme. At the other, on the other side, you had a lot of people who are trying to take sensible steps. Say, okay, we don't have to do so much, but let's at least do this much, and maybe this will be enough. And
Yeah.
the best example is Singapore,
Yeah.
where they were actually trying very rationally to not shut everything down, but to keep things going. What finally happened?
Yeah.
In their workers' colony, the cases have gone up so much that
Yeah.
they have had to shut their economy down.
Yeah.
So if you look at the examples of various experiments that have been done around the world with this lockdown or with this response to COVID, I think we will come to the conclusion, whichever way we go, that the Indian government probably did the right thing, and that even though there will be some economic pain in the short run, our people will be protected. Without people, we cannot have an economy. You can see the sort of chaos that's happening in the United States right now, where some leaders are trying to protect people and some leaders are thinking that they can get the economy going without protecting the people. It doesn't work. So we've taken a step. I've shared with you how the numbers are working in our favor gradually in a period of 1 month, how the rate of increase has been so slow in our country. The only country where I am told the rate of increase is linear and not exponential. I have shared with you how those lines are better than the lines of the other countries. So to that extent, it's a good job done. But we must be careful when we are opening up. And open up we must, but we must do it carefully so that we don't cause another problem. So Chetan, would you want to close now? We are, I think, 8 minutes above time. You're muted, Chetan.
I guess there is any problem from Chetan's side. So
I can.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Our another director, Kopperdekar sir, is joining and he is closing the session. Yes, over to you, Kopperdekar sir.
Anirban, it's always a delight to listen to you. Although I joined the session midway because we were actually in the midst of organizing some critical supplies for COVID, the PPE sets which we have procured. So it's the basic need for the hospitals right now and the medical staff. So at the chamber, we have done something what is called as a PPCR. You might have heard of this Pune platform for COVID response. So we kind of pooled responses, resources from the companies, and essentially to help the medical fraternity, the doctors, the frontline workers, and things like that. So ventilators, PPE suits, masks, sanitizers, and a whole lot of things. So it's been an interesting journey thus far, and it's always a delight to meet you personally, digitally, email-wise, and listen to you. And we all admire Mahindra Group and your leadership in sustainability, undoubtedly. And it was, again, a delight to listen to all your thoughts and the way you answered the questions. Just one thought on how we progress in terms of do you see sustainability as a new normal? Before I close, I just wanted to ask that question, but I think in the sea of questions you might have missed out. Do you see the main acceleration of sustainability mainstreaming in across the segments? Because thus far it has been limited to the elite group of companies in India, as you know very well. Do you think it's this particular pandemic or this particular crisis would accelerate that momentum?
I certainly hope so. And that is why I spent a little time talking about how activities in sustainability can help increase the margin of safety for any business, and any entrepreneur who is wise will look at every opportunity to increase margin of safety. It will increase resilience. And if members of MCCIA take it upon themselves to do activities in sustainability, not because they're sustainability, not because they're saving the planet, but because they're saving the business, I will be very happy. All benefits to the planet is a bonus.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session on global crisis of COVID-19 pandemics and sustainability challenges for industries, and whole lot of insight that otherwise a layman like me wouldn't have had, even though we would go through hundreds of pages of articles and things like that. So the way you articulate, the way you present, because of your experience and exposure, it's really, really heartwarming. And thanks to your time and effort to be with us digitally today. Hopefully in the new normal days, we hope to organize a bigger session on a bigger platform at the chamber very, very soon. Thank you so much. And thank you to Chetan for taking a lead in organizing this. And thank you to all the participants. I think we are at the height, we had 100+ participants. I think it's a great sign. And let's stay connected and let's stay safe. Thank you so much. Do you want to add any line, Chetan, now that you're back?
No, nothing. Thank you to
all the best to you. Keep up your good work. Enable your hospitals around you. Pimpri, Chindwar, Pune, they need all the help they can get. And if the MSMEs help the hospitals at this time, nothing better. All the best to you. Stay safe, be safe. And I'm sure we will come across each other again at some time in better times. Thank you.
It's really joy to meet you.
Thank you so much.